is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Addy's Action Week 11, where I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite low-owned contrarian plays on this Week 11 main slate, only on DraftKings.com. Really, these plays are somewhat viable on FanDuel as well, but just because I really get all my action on DraftKings, we're going to be mainly talking about DraftKings. And like I always like to say, these plays are going to have some sort of cash game playability to them. They're not going to be total off the wall plays. There's definitely going to be some merit behind this. And often you'll see that I play quite a few of these guys in my cash game lineup, which we'll get into in today's lineup review. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so right here at really Addy. You can follow the company at LocksDFS. If you want to get yourself an NFL or NBA season pass and join the team, it's a fun week to do so. For both these sports. That's locksdfs.com. And if you want to be entered into winning a free season pass, all you got to do is leave a like, leave a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. And we'll pick a winner from our videos. We pick a comment that we liked, and we announce the winner on our Wednesday night video for our Thursday Night Football Showdown. So that'll be in about 4 or 5 days. So make sure you guys are liking and commenting, and you'll be entered into winning a free season pass of your choice. So with that all being said, let's start this video off how we usually start these videos off, and that is with last week's lineup review. So this was the team I ran out last week. The first thing you may notice, Robbie Anderson. He was the cover boy last week. I loved him. I thought it was an awesome spot. I wanted to, I bet the over in this Giants-Jets game. I advise you all to do the same. I just thought it was a shootout waiting to happen, and I thought Robbie Anderson would definitely have a part in that. Yeah, he didn't. One catch for 11 yards. That was pretty awful. But Golden Tate, ran it back with Golden Tate. That worked out. OJ Howard, another guy I talked about in Addy's Action last week. He was the tight end. I was just talking about how, OJ Howard is what? This is the 250 double up. OJ Howard is 3% owned. And Mike Gesicki, I bet if I just click around, Rhett Ellison, 31%, sure, that's fine. I like that game for fantasy purposes, but I guess I can't find anyone with Mike Gesicki. Oh, here it is. Mike Gesicki was 40% owned. It's just like, you're telling me I'm going to get OJ Howard with almost a double team total in the funnel matchup versus for tight ends. Just like I mentioned how, it's not going to feel great clicking in OJ Howard, but it's not going to feel great clicking in Mike Gesicki either. So, I thought that was a pretty sharp move to go with that route. Ronald Jones, Patrick Mahomes. I ended up moving on to him because I didn't have the salary to get up to Lamar Jackson, but I thought Patrick Mahomes had pretty comparable upside just with the Titans secondary being banged up. Also missing Jarrell Casey, their best defensive tackle. So, pretty standard stuff. This team was good enough to cash me in double ups and my tournament. So awesome week in NFL, and looking forward to doing it again this week. So with that being said, let's get into this slate. I really, really like this slate. I really feel good about all of these plays that I have. I feel, real strongly about these guys. I think I'll probably end up with a lot of them in my cash game lineup. As you guys know, I'm one lineup guy, so when I say cash game lineup, it's kind of like all across the board. But yeah, let's just jump into it. So how we started off is we go over some of the highest owned players at each position, starting with quarterback, and then we get into who I like after that. So starting at quarterback, we got Lamar Jackson, highest owned. Obvious, makes a ton of sense. Then after that, we got Kyle Allen. And we're already getting kind of thin, just two guys in. That's how chalky guys like Lamar Jackson and Kyle Allen are coming in. Then we got Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Josh Allen, Matt Ryan. And then we got my guy right here. Oh, Derek Carr, and then we got my guy right here. And that is going to be Tom Brady at 6,400. This is just, one of the most profitable things you can do, and I've touched about this in multiple videos that the Patriots are involved in. I think I might have mentioned on this video a situation early in DFS where, what I was going to say is one of the most profitable things you can do in DFS is correctly predict what coaches are going to do. It's also one of the most risky things you can do in DFS because I think Evan Silva says it's like assumption of rational coaching, and a lot of coaches aren't rational. So it's tough to it makes it very difficult to do so. So a lot of people would advise against it, and I probably would too for the most part, because a lot of coaches are tough to predict. But one coach who, while being tough to predict, he's also fairly straightforward, is a guy like Bill Belichick. He always attacks opposing defenses' weaknesses, and as fantasy owners and fantasy players, we know what these weaknesses are. So a lot of the times what you expect to happen with Bill Belichick, or how his game plan is going to be called, it really is how it will be called. The personnel might differ. He might, switch it up personnel-wise, but the game plan itself will stay pretty intact. Like I mentioned, I think on this video early in DFS, like I think the draft street days, it was like a playoff game between the Patriots and the Colts, where the Colts had a run funnel defense. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. One of the worst teams versus the run, and one of the best teams versus the pass. And they had Peyton Manning on the other side, or Andrew Luck, one of those guys, a good quarterback on the other side that they wanted to keep off the field. And knowing this, I played both like LeGarrette Blount and who was their other running back? Stephen Ridley. LeGarrette Blount and Stephen Ridley, and they combined for like 5 touchdowns in that game. And that was being early on understanding what Bill Belichick's going to do, because he's going to stick to that game plan. And I think in this specific game plan, so we have an awful offensive line for the New England Patriots. Kind of what you wouldn't expect. They do have a low adjusted sack rate, but that's just because of good coaching. Drawing up quick outs that's Bill Belichick, drawing up quick outs, get the ball out of Tom Brady's hand really quick. And Tom Brady's ability to avoid sacks is also very underrated. People don't call him a mobile quarterback, but he is a mobile quarterback in the pocket, the way he can avoid sacks. And so I think we're going to see Tom Brady in this matchup versus he does have a bad offensive line, and he's going up against one of the better defensive lines in football. And one of the best ways to counteract that is to, one, play up tempo, play no huddle. We saw the Patriots in their Week 9 game versus Baltimore play 52% no huddle. That was by far the highest no huddle rate that they've ran this season. And I think that's because a team like Baltimore kind of fits the same mold. They've got a very good pass rush that if you're not playing up tempo, if you're not playing no huddle, these guys are going to get to Tom Brady as the game wears on. But it's a great way to mitigate a pass rush. So I think we're going to see something very similar to that in this spot. Obviously, they were trailing, but we saw Tom Brady drop back 46 times. My sort of bold take of the week is I think Tom Brady pushes 50 pass attempts in this game. It is sort of predicated on Philadelphia putting up points, which I think they can. We'll get into that. And if that does happen, I think Tom Brady pushes 50 pass attempts, and I'm going to want a lot of his low A-dot pass catches in GPPs and in cash games. I think they're very viable. So, obviously, we know how good of a matchup it is. I mean, we know these guys are a run funnel. Bill Belichick, more importantly, knows they're a pass funnel. Just a great run defense, one of the best in the league. But just a horrible, as you can see, third best run blocking defensive line, but one of the worst secondaries in the league. I believe bottom 5. Their cornerbacks get burned. Rasul Douglas, one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. They're horrible defending pass catching running backs, which is a big strong suit of this Patriots offense. So I just think this sets up for an awesome smash game coming off a bye week. Bill Belichick, you give Bill Belichick 2 weeks to prepare in such an obvious sort of spot, like what the correct thing is to do. I would love to be overweight on Tom Brady. I might, if I really need, I'm going to play Lamar Jackson. I'm telling myself I'm going to play Lamar Jackson. Every one of you guys should. But if I really need this 1,300, which, it's a lot of money, I may end up needing it. Tom Brady's a guy I'm going to, and I feel, pretty strongly about that, especially at this projected ownership. I mean, he's coming in at 5 to 8% owned. Yeah. If I was a tournament guy, I'd be 5x, 6, 7x the field on that. And in cash games, I think he's more than viable as well. With that being said, let's move on to running backs. So the chalkiest running backs as of now, we have Christian McCaffrey, obvious, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, Ezekiel Elliott, Brian Hill, Alvin Kamara, followed by Tevin Coleman, Miles Sanders, Ronald Jones, Mark Ingram, Devin Singletary, and now we're just so thin at this point. And the fact that I haven't read my guy's name, kind of surprising to me, and it goes right hand in hand with what I was just talking about in Tom Brady, and that's going to be James White at 5,400. A lot of things to like about James White here. So we'll start with matchup. So, like I mentioned, this Eagles defense has struggled to defend pass catching running backs all season. They're giving up an average of six completions per game to pass catching running backs, and we know that's sort of James White's strong suit. In these similar matchups versus Philadelphia in the past, James White has been heavily utilized. But more importantly than all of that, when and I anticipate New England running a lot of no huddle in this game. When New England runs no huddle, they almost exclusively run 11 personnel. Of the 10 running back carries that they had when they were running no huddle, it was primarily passes. But of the 10 running back carries, James White and Rex Burkhead got 7 of those 10. So Rex Burkhead is sort of the only guy he's sort of the only avenue that I could envision ruining a big James White game if they get Rex Burkhead more involved in the pass game, and if he happens to be on the field when they're running no huddle and he gets the carries towards the end zone. Like we saw James White, we saw him have that rushing touchdown and have 9 carries last week. That's because they were running primarily no huddle. If he's pushing 9 carries with his target share, you would expect it to be around like 8 or 9 targets this game. He's a smash play at this price point, and a lot of people are going just a little bit cheaper for guys like Brian Hill, even Miles Sanders, who I like more than Brian Hill. But people are going down in this range when I'm not opposed. Like Brian Hill, there's a good chance. Kenyon Barner got majority of the pass game work this last game when Devontae Freeman got hurt, and it was fairly early, so we got a good sample size of it. And it was almost exclusively Kenyon Barner in pass game work. So if you're telling me for $600 cheaper, Brian Hill is going to be like 8 to 10 times the ownership, even more of a guy like James White on a PPR site like DraftKings, where you get a point per reception, and Brian Hill might get 1 or 2 receptions while James White might get double-digit targets. There's only 600 more. I don't even think that's that bold of a take, but based on ownership, and I guarantee based on the ownership come lock, that'll be a bold take, and I'm all over James White for that price. 5,400 I feel like is fair. He's due for a massive amount of touchdown regression. I mean, this guy, week in and week out, he gets a bunch of red zone looks. I mean, if we just look last week, I mean, you can see his red zone looks, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 6, 1. And last week he got 5 red zone looks. I like that trend to continue. I don't think Sony Michel is going to be a big part of this game plan at all. And he's the other running back who really gets a ton of red zone looks. So if those are going somewhere, I think it's going to guys like James White. I think it's going to guys like Julian Edelman, who I like a lot, and a lot of people aren't going to play him. I'm interested in James White here in this spot, and I think I could make a case for him being in my cash game lineup, especially on DraftKings since it's a PPR site. But yeah, that'll sort of that'll do it for running back. Let's move on to wide receiver. So far at wide receiver, the highest owned guy we've got, then the wide receivers I got, one is going to be very low owned, or should be very low owned, and the other one not too low owned, more of a leverage play. But so far, the highest owned wide receivers are DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Curtis Samuel, Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, and then like the Oakland guys, Randall Cobb. We're getting thin at that point. So I've already read the 2 guys that I want to actually recommend. I wasn't expecting the second one to be that highly owned, but he is, but I'm still going to talk about him. But we'll start first with Curtis Samuel at 5,300. So the highest owned wide receiver right now is DJ Moore, 5th highest owned player overall. And I think it's going to be close between DJ Moore and Deebo Samuel for who's the highest owned wide receiver. And I just think Curtis Samuel's a really good leverage play off of DJ Moore. I certainly think you can play both of them together. I don't think that's out of the question at all. But if we go to airyards.com and go to Carolina, we see that we see these 2 guys, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. So targets on the year, DJ Moore has 11 more targets, but with Kyle Allen, DJ Moore only has 4 more targets, 55 to 51. So, that's close enough for me. Air yard wise, though, Curtis Samuel just blows him out of the water. He's got almost 230 more air yards. He's obviously gotten more touchdowns, but I think you can make a strong case about that touchdown regression flipping back into DJ Moore's DJ Moore's sort of corner, where he gets right in this game, especially versus the Falcons, who are giving up the 7th most touchdowns to opposing wide receivers on the year. He could definitely find the end zone. In fact, I like DJ Moore to find the end zone here. But, Curtis Samuel's beating him in air yards, market share of air yards. DJ Moore's got the slight edge in target share, but they're completely equal in weighted opportunity rating. So I think with everyone going to DJ Moore, I think we could see Curtis Samuel, especially since they're fairly close in price, only a 600 difference. We could see Curtis Samuel come in a bit lower owned maybe than projections even anticipate. And I think if that 600 is valuable, which I anticipate it will be, and maybe even straight up, I think Curtis Samuel might just be a better play. I mean, he's leading this team in targets downfield meaning 20-plus yards. Atlanta's allowing the 11th most completions over 20 yards. And also, you're really banking with a lot of these people who are playing DJ Moore. And this is for no reason a knock on DJ Moore at all. But a lot of these people who are playing DJ Moore are playing him because he's due for touchdown regression. Yet they're playing him in the same lineup that they have Christian McCaffrey. Now, obviously, Christian McCaffrey can get there without touchdowns. Although you can make a case that a 10.5K price tag, he might need the touchdowns to get there. So if you just bank C-Mac for his multi-touchdown game, you're limiting the type of touchdown regression that DJ Moore can acquire, that he can get. Maybe the multi-touchdown game is out of the realm of possibility. Now, can DJ Moore get 2 touchdowns and C-Mac get another 2 touchdowns? Of course they can. But it's just thinner, is what I'm trying to say. It's like a guy like Curtis Samuel, you can get a lot of yardage from, and obviously with DJ Moore as well. But with Curtis Samuel, that 100-yard game, 100-yard bonus is fairly easy, and just 1 touchdown will cut it for him as well, as it will with DJ Moore. But that's really the point there. I think it's a good leverage play for Curtis Samuel here, especially if DJ Moore is going to be 4 or 5 times the ownership. I think Curtis Samuel just makes a lot of sense. And then the other guy I wanted to talk about, who I was kind of surprised at his ownership, and I just keep going back to these Patriots, but it's Mohamed Sanu at 5,100. It's just like, what is that price tag? 5,100. This dude, like I talked about, it's very important to see what New England was doing when they were running no huddle, because their personnel is very limited. So you want the guys who are going to be on the field. And was Mohamed Sanu on the field? Yes, he played 100% of their snaps last week. It's only his 2nd week with the team. He played 100% of the snaps. He got 14 targets, caught 10 of them for, I believe, 100-plus yards and a touchdown. No, 80 yards and a touchdown. But, I mean, basically, like I'm saying, man, I just want all these guys. Let me X out here. I just want all these guys. Like Mohamed Sanu, 5,100. I think it's a good enough discount on him over a guy like Julian Edelman at 7,600, where it just makes sense. It just makes sense to have multiple pass game weapons from an offense that I believe is going to throw the ball close to 50 times a game. I do not mind double stacking Mohamed Sanu. I do not mind any sort of double stacks here. I don't mind Sanu with White, or White with Edelman, or Edelman with Sanu. I think they're all in play. And I think for 5,100, when you're playing DFS in cash games primarily, and also in tournaments, things you're really looking for is volume from your 3 running backs. You want, three down workhorse backs primarily. Obviously, exceptions can be made. I recommended a guy like James White in today's video. And then wide receivers, you want all your wide receivers to have some sort of double-digit target upside. And I think for 5.1K, Mohamed Sanu double-digit target is well within the realm of possibility. In fact, I would say it's probably above 50% in the realm of possibility. So I just think he's underpriced. And, it makes a lot of sense at that salary. But yeah, let's move on to tight end now. Because I think that's enough on wide receiver. So tight end, leading the pack right now is Greg Olsen, which makes sense. He's very cheap on DraftKings. Then we have Eric Ebron, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, Darren Waller, Jared Cook. And then my guy right here. Okay, so tight end, I mean, that makes sense. Tight end's very thin this week with George Kittle doubtful, Austin Hooper out, and a lot of the good tight ends not on the slate. Yeah, I think tight end's thin, and I mean, you guys know I can't talk about all these Patriots weapons without running it back with at some, with some Eagle. And so the Eagles I want to run it back with, and this is sort of a double tight end. All I have written down in my tight end position who I want to talk about is just Eagles tight ends. I like them both a ton. Zach Ertz at 5K and Dallas Goedert at 3,200. My goodness, 3,200. Okay, so let's start with the bad. New England has allowed the least amount of fantasy points to opposing tight ends, ranking number 1 overall. They just totally shut down tight ends. They typically take Patrick Chung and they just stick him on the tight end, and he just shuts them down. And now the good news, Patrick Chung is out for this game. That's huge. The better news, Alshon Jeffrey is out. The even better news, Deshaun Jackson is out. When Deshaun Jackson is out, Philly runs almost exclusively 12 personnel with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. If we look at last week, Deshaun Jackson only played 4% of the snaps prior to getting hurt or re-aggravating his injury. And Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz both played 70 snaps, which equates to 80% of the overall snaps. They ran a route on nearly every single one of Carson Wentz's dropbacks. And obviously the matchup isn't as bad as it looks on paper with Patrick Chung out. If you're going to load up on New England pass game weapons like I like to, then you're going to have to run it back with some Philly guys. And I think these tight ends are where I want to go. I think with Zach Ertz coming in this owned, I didn't expect him to be like the third or fourth highest tight end, but it makes sense when you look at the slate. I definitely don't mind Zach Ertz, but if you anticipate Bill Belichick maybe scheming to take away Zach Ertz, then I don't mind Dallas Goedert at all. The reason I say that is because Bill Belichick, we have decade-long sample size of him trying to take away the team's best weapon on offense. And in this case, with all the injuries to the wide receivers, that would be Zach Ertz. So I do like Dallas Goedert here at 3,200. I mean, he's just a full-time player that, at minimum, you can bank him for like 5 targets. I mean, he's gotten 8, 4, 5, and 5 since he's really sort of emerged towards the end of the season. He's got big-time touchdown equity. They love targeting him in the red zone. And yeah, I mean, I love running it back with these tight ends. I think it makes a lot of sense, and you'll most likely find one of those guys in my lineup this week. So with that all being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, a like and comment, like I said earlier, means a ton, and you will also be entered into winning that free NFL or NBA season pass if you just leave a like, leave a comment. Go ahead and comment down below. Tell me who your favorite GPP play of this week is. And tell me why. Tell me who you guys are looking at and why you're going to play them. So, yeah, with that being said, that'll do it for me. I hope you guys run good this weekend. Take something down. Let me know if you do. Tweet at me at ReallyAddy. I'll be sweating these games on Sunday. But yeah, enjoy, and I will see you guys next week for Week 12 Addy's Action. Peace.